Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing an 8-4 run that I had in the Open Grade League, featuring a pretty interesting core breaker, and that is Legacy PIDGEOT. The ELO range at which these battles were done was upper 2600s, low 2700s, which at the time of recording is within the top 100 ranked battlers in the world. What intrigued me about PIDGEOT is, due to its normal flying typing, it has the ability to resist the fast move pressure from Feraligatr, do very well into Pokemon like Annihilate and Jumpluff, which I found to be quite common. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at this team in action. Hopping into the first match, picking up a bit of a tough lead, leading into a Shadow Typhlosion. Opponent is going to throw on perfect charge attack timing, as they will be firing off the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch will be shielded, and I'm going to connect with the Aerial Ace. I'm hoping my opponent does one more Incinerate, because landing a Gust would potentially put it into farm down range for the Primeape, but they undertap, which is a pretty nice play. So I'm going to let that through, send in the Dunsparce. Opponent is going to pivot into Feraligatr, and again my opponent, very good mechanics here, as it will fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon will land, doing quite a bit of damage. I'm going to make it to drill run number 2 at the exact same time as they make Hydro Cannon number 2, and of course Feraligatr will win the CMP tie by a mile, but that's fine. I'm sacrificing the Dunsparce. I'm trying to set up a Primeape sweep. In comes the Primeape, 5 Karate Chops KO, they're unable to get a move. In comes Typhlosion, and I throw 4 Karate Chops in the Rage Fist. This Incinerate damage will not register unless they shield. They shield specifically to have that damage register, but now I'm boosted. I have a ton of residual energy. In the back, they have a Shadow Swampert, and unfortunately for my opponent, this game is over. I have the back-to-back boosted Ice Punches. They're going to do massive damage to the Shadow Swampert. Incredibly cool team for my opponent, to be honest. Typhlosion, Feraligatr, Swampert, but Primeape is able to pick up the win. We move to the next match, going up against an amazing battler, Philb, and he is leading Malamar. This is a situation where PIDGEOT is a bit slower compared to meta Mons. However, I really like the fast move pressure that it has in this meta. They're going to go for the foul play. I will farm up to the Brave Bird and go for an Aerial Ace bait. The Aerial Ace bait is going to be shielded by my opponent. PIDGEOT is able to make it to another Aerial Ace, and this will not KO, but it will get my opponent low. They're going to no-shield. I switch into Primeape, and I get the snipe. That is absolutely massive. In comes Charjabug, and honestly, I'm thrilled to see this here. I'm up a shield, I'm up energy. Primeape should hopefully be able to put in a tremendous amount of work in back. I am going to commit the shield as they fire off their move, and unfortunately, my internet goes out mid-battle. I'm struggling here. I'm not getting my fast moves. I quick turn off the Wi-Fi, switch to phone data, and just like that, we are back in the fight. In the back is going to be a Diggersby, and now I get to launch boosted Ice Punches. Ice Punch is going to connect, dealing some significant damage. I'm very close to the back-to-back Ice Punches, but I don't quite have it. So I'm able to grab the shield, and now I'm going to switch into the Dunsparce. Opponent, very nice patience there, holding on to that Fire Punch, and now they get to connect with Scorching Sands. But I'm very happy that I was able to switch over to the phone data, because I don't know what was going on, but my Wi-Fi just gave out mid-battle there. That was entirely my Wi-Fi's fault. Dunsparce is very bulky, able to absorb Scorching Sands after Scorching Sands. I'm actually going to throw 2 here because I do want residual energy available to me. So I throw an alignment, but I'm able to pick up the KO. All that's left is going to be the Charjabug. I can quick switch into the Primeape, make the Ice Punch. Ice Punch is going to knock out the Charjabug, and we're able to take the win. We move to the next match. Amazing lead. PIDGEOT into Jumpluff. Opponent safe switches into Annihilate, and they are completely core broken by the PIDGEOT. Annihilate, this is enough for a potential Ice Punch. I will respect it, and I'm very happy that I did. Oh my goodness. That would have been disastrous if that landed. I'm down a shield, and I've lost a lot of health. Annihilate hits very hard, but I have so much energy. Opponent gonna bring in Shadow Typhlosion. Quick pivot out into the Primeape, and at this point, I'm hoping eventually my opponent is going to send the Jumpluff into the Primeape, thinking that it's perfectly fine to tank boosted Rage Fists, but I have Ice Punch. In comes the Jumpluff right on cue, and look at this damage. Primeape going for this boosted Ice Punch into the Jumpluff. That nearly picks up a one-hit KO. And from here, this is just a very straightforward game. Aerial Ace is going to deliver the knockout onto Primeape. I can send in the Dunsparce. Dunsparce looking for a full rollout farm down. And The opponent knows I have a move on the Dunsparce and I have a move on the Pidgeot, so there's just no way for them to win the game. Now I have 2 moves on the Dunsparce, and as we see in the bottom right, the opponent actually concedes the match as I fire off the Drill Run, and we're able to take the win. So now we're on a bit of a win streak. We've won a couple games in a row with the team, feeling pretty good. All right, we are going up against a Shadow Drifblim. I did initially try this team with Shadow Pidgeot, but I found that Shadow Pidgeot ended up being too frail in a lot of circumstances. Here, I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace. I don't think it will KO because I'm debuffed, but I think they're going to be in Gust range. They are in Gust range. They're going to switch out into the Quagsire, and this is a little bit uncomfortable, as my backline isn't a big fan of a Quagsire with energy. I bluff the Brave Bird. I'm able to force a shield from the opponent. I do make it to an Aerial Ace, which is nice. I mean, I am debuffed, but I will get some damage here, and now I'm just forced to send in the Dunsparce. Dunsparce doesn't have a good matchup against the Quagsire, but the Quagsire's already taken so much damage that now I'm in a perfectly fine position. I'm just going to be no-shielding everything on the Dunsparce. Dunsparce is the damage sponge. They go for the Aqua Tail. I'm just going to undertap. I just want the Quagsire gone, or I want that final shield. They are going to let it go. In the back, they have Shadow Machamp. Shadow Machamp exits with a Cross Chop loaded. In comes the Primeape. Primeape farming up quite a bit, and I will commit the shield. So they are 1 off the back-to-back, which means I can go for the Rage Fist. Rage Fist should be shielded by my opponent, and for them, the winning play is to go for a catch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to anticipate the catch, and I'm just going to keep farming with my Karate Chop. So I have the move, there's the catch attempt. They do make it to an Icy Wind, but I'm not going to let them get away with that. Catching it onto the Pidgeot, Karate Chopping down the Drifblim, and now I can fire off the Ice Punch at the Shadow Machamp. Even though I did have to reset my boost by switching out, Ice Punch will still KO, and we're able to take the win. And this is a nightmare lead. Why is there a Bastiodon in Season 21? I save switch into Dunsparce, in comes Annihilate, and this is going very, very poorly for me. Bastiodon neutrally is now a truly terrible Pokemon, but people don't really run it for its neutral matchups. They run it to try and hard counter people in either hard win or hard lose matchups. So even though Bastiodon straight up loses to Morpeko, which is the funniest matchup I've ever seen considering how glassy Morpeko is, in this instant, I have a Pidgeot, and my Pidgeot is going to be in a lot of trouble. They will be firing off a boosted close combat. That does massive damage. I need to sweep with Primeape, and they have a Wigglytuff in the back. Unfortunately, we do take our first loss, and it happens to be against a very alignment-dependent team. Moving to the next match, bad lead, going up against a Sandslash. Here my opponent makes a pretty large error. They should have thrown 6 and the move, even if they were going to Ice Punch, but instead by throwing on 5, considering that I was a turn behind due to the switch out, they actually give me an entire rollout for free, which is very, very nice. Dunsparce loves the free energy. My opponent does actually play to a CMP tie here, so the Drill Run is going to connect. They're going to return fire. They did build up to a potential Hydro. Most are on Play Rough Ice Beam. It will be the Play Rough, and the Play Rough plus the Bubble do not KO, and Dunsparce with a clutch 1 HP survive to deliver some very nice damage. I'm going to send in Pidgeot, opponent firing off an Ice Beam. That is very okay by me. And now I can potentially look to send in Primeape to get a small energy head start. And in the back is going to be a Shadow Sableye. And I'm going to need the energy head start because I need to start spamming out these Rage Fists, boosting up my attack as much as I possibly can. But I think my opponent can probably just Shadow Claw me down and take this win. So I will go for Rage Fist after Rage Fist. My opponent throws a move. That's a huge mistake. They do not need to throw this. They need to commit to the farm down. And I didn't see a sneak there. Is that a CMP tie as well? Oh my goodness. Had they just committed to farm, they could have had 2 extra Shadow Claws at this point. But now I can actually Karate Chop them down. They're forced to switch out into the Sandslash. Look at the Karate Chops go. They just get absolutely melted. And that's an endgame where had they committed to the fast move pressure, they could have won. But instead, they make an error. They actually throw their charge moves, which gives me Karate Chops. That would have allowed me to farm down. And in doing so, I'm actually able to get that win. We move to the next match, Pidgeot versus Shadow Drapion. Shadow Drapion going to be firing off a Crunch, and Crunch will inflict some serious damage. So Crunch is going to connect. I'm going to go for an Aerial Ace. My opponent will know this is short of a Brave Bird, but I just want to get some damage off on my opponent's Pokemon. They are going to be firing off a move, and I'm more than happy just to let the Pidgeot go. So Aqua Tail is going to pick up the knockout. In comes Dunsparce. Dunsparce farming up. Opponent is going to switch out and send in Malamar, and this is very, very bad for me. Malamar in the back is not a Pokemon that I want to see. Opponent tries to go for a CMP tie. That does give me a free rollout. A Superpower won't KO, so I'll let it go. It ends up being a foul play bait. And now I will be firing off another Drill Run. Drill Run is going to be shielded by my opponent. My opponent is going to again play to the CMP tie, and they'll be able to pick up the knockout. I'm just trusting in Primeape to take home this win for me. Primeape taking a lot of damage from the opponent. I will go for the Rage Fist to deliver a knockout and to make sure that I exit this matchup at +1 attack. In the back, they have a Azumarill, and that's really not what I was hoping to see. As Azumarill, it's just so bulky, and it resists the Karate Chops. If it was something that I had neutral fast move pressure into, maybe I had a chance. But I think in this moment, I'm not going to be able to pull off the win. My opponent does have a charge attack loaded on that Drapion. They farmed up and switched out with it, and that means once they're able to force my shields, they can go for the combo play to win the game. Ice Beam is going to be reached, and there's Ice Beam number 2. I don't have the move loaded. If I had the move loaded, I could win the CMP tie, but I'm just short of the energy required. Drapion KOs me, made it as close as I could, but Primeape just not able to get the sweep. Pidgeot into Jumpluff, amazing lead for me. Opponent save switches into Shadow Typhlosion. Incredibly cool pick from my opponent. My opponent does end up throwing on alignment there, so I will take the free rollout. They will go for a Thunder Punch bait. Even if you Thunder Punch first, it's still going to be 3 to the Blast Burn, so I can safely do 1 rollout and the Drill Run. My opponent is going to look to just try and force both of my shields. If they can get shields down, they're thinking they should be in a pretty decent position. Here, I have a bunch of energy loaded. I can threaten the Jumpluff, but that's not what is brought out onto the field of play. Instead, it's going to be Diggersby. This is not a good matchup for the Dunsparce, so I'm going to bank a move and send in Pidgeot, because Pidgeot will be able to tank moves quite comfortably, and I have the Ice Punch surprise on the Primeape for that Jumpluff later in the game. They can go for Fire Punch after Fire Punch, even with the extra damage this season. That's just not a problem for Pidgeot. Pidgeot going for the Brave Bird, guaranteeing the final shield or the knockout. Brave Bird connects, down goes Diggersby, back in comes the Jumpluff, and Jumpluff will immediately be met with an Aerial Ace. Even an Aerial Ace would hurt. Clocks up, I can switch into the Dunsparce and begin to start spamming out these Rock Slides. Rock Slide is going to connect. Opponent should be able to pick up a knockout here with an Aerial Ace. It'll be close though. They actually go for an Energy Ball, so maybe they're on Energy Ball acrobatics. In comes the Primeape. Primeape is able to make it to that Ice Punch, and this Ice Punch is double super effective damage. So the fighter gets the KO the Grass Flyer and take the win. We've got a tough opponent in the next match, Richie, a regional champion, but we've got a great lead, leading Pidgeot into Corsola. Opponent save switches into Shadow Drapion, and here, realistically, I should probably switch out into either the Primeape or the Dunsparce, but instead, I make the first of many misplays in this battle, and I end up staying in. I will go for the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace will do a solid amount of damage. That's going to connect. And now, again, what I should have done is brought in the Dunsparce, because Dunsparce can tank hits without having to give up shields. But instead, Aqua Tail does so much to Primeape that I end up committing the shield. In comes Corsola, and for Corsola, if it's a good Corsola, I will need 3 Rage Fists to deliver a knockout. My opponent, of course, is going to no-shield the first. I'm farming up a ton of energy. They throw on alignment, but it's actually a very good play because it's going to pressure my final shield. So they go for the Nightshade. I am getting very close to 100 energy, so I will fire off another Rage Fist. The Rage Fist is going to connect, getting them low. I'm going to try and go for a catch attempt. I don't get the catch. In the back, it's Primeape, and oh my goodness. So many misplays in this game. I included this battle just to show that even battlers who play on page 1 of the leaderboards can make terrible misplays. This was the most winnable game ever. I led a Pidgeot into a Corsola Primeape team and lost because of how poorly I played. Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to need some redemption in the final match. Pidgeot and a Talonflame is actually a very bad lead, so I will pivot out into the Primeape, go for the Rage Fist. Now I'm boosted. They send in Whimsicott. Oh, trainer, no. Not like this. Normally, they could tank Rage Fist for days, but this is a boosted Ice Punch, nearly picking up a one-hit KO. And just like that, switch advantage is mine as I shield and boosted Karate Chop farm down my opponent. Back in comes the Talonflame. Talonflame will be met with a boosted Rage Fist. Now, this is going to be very close. Can I make it to another move here? No, I cannot. So my opponent does exit with a lot of energy. They are at a Fly plus a Brave Bird. My plan is just to fully sacrifice the Dunsparce and then trust in the fact that I should be able to do well with the Pidgeot. This will be the Brave Bird, but no, they actually go for the Fly. They want to save an ability to potentially make another Fly later on. I go for the Drill Run, but Goodra in the back is bad news for me as I have no residual energy on the Pidgeot. My only win con at this point is my opponent to Aqua Tail Bait, so I no shield. They go for the Aqua Tail Bait. Can I farm everything down? That's going to be the play. We do get the farm down. I'll get the full Gust landing on the Talonflame, and my rollout will register before the Incinerate because it's a 3-turn move and Incinerate is 5. So a couple of these matches, I definitely felt like I was in a very losing position, but we were able to claw back, make the right read. All in all, I did have a lot of fun with this team. As I mentioned earlier, there was a bit of trial and error. Like initially, I had Shadow Quagsire instead of Dunsparce and Shadow Pidgeot instead of the regular. And I just found with that team that I didn't really have anything that could take a hit. And that proved to be a problem because Primeape really likes shields. And when you have 2 Shadow Pokemon with Primeape, it puts you in a really difficult position where suddenly all of your Pokemon want shields, and shields are a very limited resource. So I made the team adjustment. I switched to the regular Pidgeot, and I switched to Dunsparce, and Dunsparce can tank hits for days. And honestly, the team worked way better after that. I do think Pidgeot has some very interesting anti-meta play. The biggest drawback to Pidgeot is going to be its pacing. A lot of Pokemon in this meta are lightning fast. Even Annihilate, by today's standards, is considered a pretty slow Pokemon, and Pidgeot needing 4 Gusts to get to the first move does definitely put it in that caliber of very, very slow. However, I do think that because flying is basically unresisted among the good Pokemon in this meta, that Pidgeot can still find anti-meta play even when its pacing is not the greatest, just due to the fact that flying fast move pressure and an ability to resist Shadow Claw can allow Pidgeot to be a core breaker for quite a few teams. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide to the channel is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.